Hey, Bev.
Hey, Sam. And Erica, the goat chick.
Oh.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome to our podcast, We Drink and We Farm Things. Woo!
Thank you so much.
You are so welcome, and thank you for joining us. So we usually like to start the podcast out about, going around the room and saying what everybody's drinking. So, Bev, what are you drinking today?
So I'm drinking a Santan Brewing Company, Mr. Pineapple.
Ooh.
This is another one of my favorite Arizona beers. I brought back 5-6 packs of beer from Arizona,
Oh my
and I'm
God.
slowly working my way through them on the podcast. This is number 3, so there's 2 more to come.
Nice.
What are you drinking over there, Sam?
I'm pretending like I'm back in college and I'm having a vodka Red Bull.
Wow.
Which is probably why I'm already a little slap happy because I had a few sips of it and I swear I know what I'm doing, but I don't. So yeah, it's a sugar-free one though, so it's just hitting me with the caffeine. So
That's good.
Yeah. And Erica, what are you drinking over there?
I am drinking not my usual because they were out of it, but I am drinking a Gallo Moscato Sangria.
Ooh,
That sounds good.
I love wine.
I am a wine drinker. Absolutely.
Oh, well, that'll be fun when, we're all together at Coop Camp. We'll have to have some wine
Absolutely.
together.
They served wine last year.
Ooh,
Yeah.
even better. I don't have to,
Nice.
if I don't have to smuggle it in, that's even
Yeah.
better.
Right. I mean, I don't think it would be any secret that the ladies from We Drink and We Farm Things would be drinking.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
that's true. That's true. And that we might be very good or very bad influences on other people, depending on how you look at it. So.
I think you'll be fine. You'll be in good company.
Well, awesome. Yeah, so we'll be seeing the goat chick at Coop Camp as well. And cheers to Ashley Kiernan for sponsoring our beverages. Thank you.
Cheers, lady. Woohoo.
So, Erica, will you tell us a little bit about who you are and your website and what kinds of things people can find on your website?
Sure. I'm Erica Hopkins. I've been raising a herd of Nigerians since 2011, Nigerian dwarfs. And, when I first started, I didn't know a lot. Well, I didn't know anything, actually. And
Oh, good. You're in good company.
I didn't know anything about raising any kind of livestock. So I just, started reaching out to new goat friends, and they became my mentors. And when I finally started feeling like I knew what I was doing, at least halfway, I started mentoring other people. And then about a year and a half ago, I started thegoatchick.com. And basically, it's a website that will help you decide, first, if you want goats. And secondly, if you decide you do want goats, what kinds of goats that you would like, either, dairy, meat, fiber, or a what would you call it? Like a multi-purpose goat.
Okay.
And then after you decide, it will help you choose a breeder and to prepare for them, how to feed them, how to house them, how to care for them, and how to fence your yard, just all kinds of things. And then it delves into some more advanced topics on breeding and genetics and basically everything I've learned over the last 8 years on the website.
Yeah, Bev sent me the link because I was not a good podcast co-host and I barely did any research before we got on the line with you. So she sent me your website and I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much stuff on here. But that's great because as somebody that's gonna be like a baby goat connoisseur, or I
Right.
strive to be because they're adorable.
Sure.
I need all that information in
Yeah.
one spot, and it's really cool that we've developed a relationship with Brad, and now because we trust him, we know that you'll, be a great source of information for us in all of our goating endeavors. So
Absolutely.
we're very excited to learn from you today and in the future as well.
Absolutely. You can contact me anytime with any questions. Like I said, I don't know everything. I don't know if I'd consider myself an expert, and there are large disclaimers at the bottom that says, "Hey, I'm not a veterinarian."
Right.
I just tell people what works for me, and you know, take it with a grain of salt.
We say that exact same thing
Oh,
a
yeah.
lot. In fact, I think a lot of our early episodes, we were like, by the way, Bev and Sam are just doing this.
Right.
We aren't like professionally trained. We aren't veterinarians. We're just drinking and chatting
Just drinking and chatting. That's right.
and
Yeah.
recording it. So that's really awesome. If we have any listeners that are maybe thinking about getting goats, or, they already have goats and they're not really sure exactly how to do everything for them, then going to Erica's website, thegoatchick.com, will be super useful to you. I saw that you have like a quiz that people can take if they aren't sure whether or not they want to raise goats. And I felt like it was really comprehensive.
Well, thank you very much. I get a lot of good feedback from it. And I get a lot of feedback from that quiz. I just got another one this morning. Someone had taken the quiz and said, yes, definitely, sign me up. I want goats.
Oh, awesome. Does anybody ever say no, they don't want goats after they've taken it?
You know what? I was thinking of that just yesterday. I'm like, would they really fill out, the quiz and say no? I don't think, I think that if they take the quiz, they're already pretty much on board. They're just trying to tell me that, hey, this website helped, and, and that's why I put it there, just to kind of get feedback on what people were thinking, just kind of seeing where they're from. It's just a short little quiz. So,
Well, neat. Well, today we're going to talk to you about picking out your Nigerian dwarf goats and then also breeding them.
okay.
Once you've picked them out.
Okay.
So Sam and I have talked about how we got our goats. I can't remember what episode it was. I need to start taking notes and writing these things down so I can point people in the right direction. But anyhow, some time ago we talked about how we got our goats, and Sam and I literally just picked our goats because they were goats.
Sure.
And that was it.
That's usually what happens.
But for somebody that wants to pick out Nigerian dwarf goats that like conform to the breeding standard, and they want to breed them either for milk or to sell, how do you look at a goat and decide that it's a good goat?
Okay. So if you're going to be breeding and you really care about, what your output is going to be, as well as what, your goats that you buy are going to be like showroom or show ring competitive, or, have a good milk production, have decent linear appraisal scores, then you need to, before you ever buy one single goat, you have to know what you're looking at. Now, that's way easier said than done, because it takes years to know what you're looking at.
Good, we're not alone.
So don't get too discouraged, at the get-go, but definitely I tell everyone, even if they're just, wanting some backyard goats, definitely do tons and tons of research to figure out, so you don't make a mistake. I mean, you can, and mistakes are going to happen. It's a given. But on my website, on thegoatchick.com, there's now it only deals with dairy goats, because I really only know a lot about dairy goats, and I have dairy goats. So there's a page called Confirmation, and there are 2 drawings, actually 4 drawings, 2 of the ideal dairy doe and 2 of the ideal dairy buck. And the reason they are drawings and not pictures is because there's no such thing as a perfect goat. That is absolutely 100% always true. They're great.
That's good to know.
There are great goats. There are exceptional goats. There is no perfect goat. So what they've done is they've actually done drawings of what the ideal dairy goat looks like. So those drawings combined with at the bottom of that same page, there are links to the ADGA, which is the American Dairy Goat Association, unified scorecard. And that is just words. There are no pictures. You can find some pictures, but it's descriptions of basically if your goat is made up of 100 points, it breaks it down into the points that count towards dairy character, general appearance, and the mammary. So, and we're just talking about does right now. So it'll have descriptions of like, if you go there and you look at the unified scorecard, you need to know what each of the areas of your goat should be. And once you learn about those items, then you can kind of apply that to what you're looking at. Now, like I said before, it takes years and years. At least it did me. It took me, like, I still, I'm not sure on some things. But when you do go to choose a goat, you're going to pretty much defer to another opinion, because there's just no way to get that information unless you've been around goats and know what you're looking for. So that being said, if you know kind of what the confirmation should be, what the scorecard should be, even if you don't fully understand it, you can find a good breeder and you can basically ask them what makes this a good, not that they're always going to tell you the truth, but the reputable ones definitely will. And so you find a reputable breeder, and if you specifically ask for, I want a high producer, I want a doe that's going to do well in the show ring, that's going to do well confirmation wise during linear appraisal, they'll sell you what you ask for if you find a reputable dealer. So
that's really good to know. And in fact, we'll link to both of these things that you talked about in the show notes, both the goat confirmation and the scorecard from, what was it called?
ADGA.
There we go, ADGA. I always just say ADGA. So I was like, ooh, yep. ADGA. There's a better way to say that.
Yeah.
ADGA.
Yep, ADGA. Yep. And there's a lot of resources on their page too. It's adga.org, and that's the dairy goat. That's the standard dairy goat registry. There's also AGS, which is the American Goat Society. But I would say if you're looking at dairy goats, ADGA is your source of information. So
that's good to know. Yeah, I just got done registering 2 of my goats because I have 2 registered goats, and I got my membership, I got my herd names, right. I got my assigned tattoos, and I have almost all of my certificates. So I'm like, all right, nice. I'm almost ready to go on this.
Nice. Yeah, it's exciting. So will you have, are they yours? Are they your herd name? Oh, no, you haven't had babies yet, right?
Nope, I haven't had babies yet. So none of my so I don't have any goats that have my herd name yet.
But you will.
But I have 2 registered goats, and I have that are triple registered with 3 of the registries. I think all except for the international one.
Okay.
And then I have 2 that are unregistered.
Okay.
So I sort of ended up with a mix of goats.
So you will have your first herd name babies.
I haven't bred mine yet because they're just now turning 1.
Oh, okay.
So I was waiting the whole year. Yeah, so I'll breed them either in February or March, and then have late summer or fall babies for the first time.
Okay, so Sam is going to have. Okay, gotcha.
But I'm not as fancy as Bev. One of my girls is registered from where I got her from, and then the boy is not. It was kind of like a on the fly thing to decide not to fix him.
Yep.
Because it was funny because the breeder came over with her longtime friend that does the disbudding about a week after I got him. I got him like a week-old bottle baby. And today is the like 1 year gotcha day for him.
Right.
I saw on Time Hop. But I call his name is Loki, but I call him Little Toot.
Nice.
And he's lived up to that because now he's just all boy and stinky.
Yep.
But when he was like 2 weeks old, she's looking at him and she goes, oh my, look at that stance. Like, if you ever decide to breed him, like, let me know. And I'm like, his stance, like, what are you even? He's adorable in the face, and he pees everywhere, but I don't, I had him in the house at the time because it was so cold. And it was fun to have a house goat for like a minute.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And to put him in the little onesies and football outfit for the Super Bowl and all that fun stuff. But I never went through with like registering him.
Okay.
So I'm not as far along as Bev goes, but I figure if I like this enough and, you know, it's something that I seriously want to pursue, then I'll kind of prepare to do that over the next year or so and add to the flock and all that fun stuff. But I'm just trying not to like freak my husband out too badly by bringing in more goats. So, but yeah, Bev is super organized and has her shit together. Sam is not as much, but I aspire to be that level of organization. And now I have her to ask questions to and you to ask questions to. So I will be set up for success when I'm ready to take that step.
Absolutely. And you know, most people who kind of jump into it like you did, I mean, goats are awesome, you know, and you get to a certain point where you're like, okay, I want to do this. Even if it's just for like a backyard milker. And most people who, you know, just kind of jump into goats and get breeding goats, even if they're unregistered, eventually go the registered route.
Right.
So, yeah, you kind of get to the point where you're like, hey, I could totally do this. Let's do this. You know, so.
Right. But if I'm like, this is such a pain in the ass, I hate it. Or this is terrifying. Like if it doesn't go well the first time, it might turn me off, you know, but I grew up around dairy cows. So I've seen like cows being born. So I imagine it's just like this, except smaller scale. Cause they're much smaller. But so we'll see how this goes. And then, we'll decide if I'm going to be fancy like Bev.
Right.
Well, and you know, I'm really not that organized. I've had all this paperwork for almost an entire year, and I just sat down to do it like 4-ish weeks ago. It was the new year, and I picked my word for the year is focus. So I was like, all right, what do I need to focus on? And I was like, I need to focus on getting my goat shit together. So I like pulled out the notebook and I was like, registered with this association, and all this stuff started coming back. And I was like, what on earth does all this mean? Clearly this is not a one-day thing. I have to shelf this for a little while and come back. So in the morning when I'm feeling feisty with my extra coffee, I'll open it up and start filling out more paperwork. But I'm so close to being done. So close.
It can be kind of daunting. In fact, my best friend got into goats. And so, you know, I set her up with a herd and she started breeding, and 3 years later she was like, I could not do this paperwork, will you please do it for me? And I'm like, oh no. So some people are really overwhelmed with the paperwork aspect, but you know, it's worth it.
Well, and each society or group is just a little different in how they do it. So it's really good to like take them off in bites, like do one society at a time. And then once you at least get your membership cards back from all of them, then you're like, all right, now I can fill out the proper paperwork to register each goat. And then you're like, oh wait, if I'm going to have goat kids, I need my herd name and tattoo. So you get one, and then you tell all the rest of them, this is my herd name and this is my tattoo with this society. And usually, or from what I've heard, they'll recognize it and just give it to you.
Yeah, usually if it's available, they will.
If it's available, and hopefully somebody like didn't take your stuff in one society and not do the rest of them, because then you're like, oh crap, now I gotta go back to all the other societies and change it, because it all has to be the same because of the tattoo part. You can't tattoo a goat with two different like leading tattoos. I mean, their ears just aren't that big.
Yeah, that can be really frustrating.
Knock on wood, I have to do it for real. I haven't had anybody take my stuff yet, so
that's good. That's good.
And all my applications are in now, so I think I'm in the clear.
Nice. Heck yeah.
Well, so for people who want to start getting into goat breeding, one of the things that Sam and I ran into is that like the genetics of the goats
Right.
kind of matter when you start deciding to let them have sexy time together.
Right.
So
Sorry.
I like to say goat sexy time for some reason.
And I like to laugh like a 12-year-old boy, apparently.
It's all good. So one thing I forgot to mention when you're choosing your first goats is I absolutely believe in if you're gonna do it like you think you're gonna be serious about it, buy the best goats that you can afford. Like, and that means like confirmation wise, and you know that the records are behind them. So if you're going to start with babies, make sure that the parents, you know, they have good production records, good LA scores, good show doesn't matter as much, but if you're going to eventually show your own goats, then it's better to, you know, choose those babies that have parents who have shown and have done well. So basically, yeah, that's like in a nutshell, get the best goats that you can afford to begin with if you think you're going to be serious about it. So that being said, when you go to breed, you should do the same thing. You want to be improving, choosing bucks that will improve the faults on your own goats. And like I said before, there is no such thing as a perfect goat. Every single goat has faults. You just have to know what those faults are. So, you know, if you want to improve production, then you need to find a buck that has a dam who has really good production. So, if you have a goat that doesn't have a great rump, then you want to find a buck that has a really great rump. In theory, it doesn't always work out that way. You can breed two champion, beautiful parents and get crap. You know, it's just, it happens. So, so same thing, you know, you want to choose a buck to breed your does to, that improves your does in theory. Everything's always theory.
Well, that kind of takes the pressure off, though, right? Because you can try your hardest, but you in you know, best laid plans, right? And it
Right.
still not come out like you expected. So really, it's
Right.
just kind of like Mother Nature doing what she wants,
Oh, and
regardless
absolutely.
of how hard we try.
Absolutely. And when you get, so say you bring a new buck in that you think, well, I'm going to try this buck because he has so and so and so and so, and he's, you know, on paper he's good and his parents are good. Well, from the time you bring him home and breed him to the first doe, it takes about 3 years to prove him
Oh,
that
wow.
he's actually worth something. So, yeah. So it's a very, very long, drawn out process, you know, and then, you know, in the meantime, say you use a buck, you buy a buck and you use them on a couple does, and then for some reason, maybe he's an asshole, right?
Yeah.
You know, he just, and you're like, you are not staying here. So, so you sell him, right? And
Right.
then 3 years later, you're like, oh, I really should have kept it, you know?
Yeah.
So it just,
Yeah.
everything just takes so long to prove that, you know, it's hard. It's
Yeah,
hard.
and it sounds like it's quite the commitment, you know.
It
It's
is.
not something you can just throw money at and just expect it to go
Right.
well right away, right off the bat, and prove
Yep.
that, you know, you have the greatest goats on earth.
Right.
It's a long-term commitment.
Yes, very long term. And that's why I said, you know, buy the best goats possible to begin with, and then you're kind of ahead of the game. Hopefully.
Right. Right.
In theory,
In
right?
theory. That's how it works. Absolutely.
But I think it's really refreshing to hear, you know, and to just confirm that, even no matter how hard you try, shit's gonna happen. It's
Yep.
not gonna go well, or maybe something kind of unplanned happens and it turns
Yeah.
out to be the best thing that's happened to you and your little farm. So
Right.
like
Right.
me and Bev are big on like kind of shattering the image of everything is perfect on our farm. Not that like I mean, we put together nice Instagram posts, but we're not like my chicken coop has shit all over the place. And when I take
Right.
pictures of that and post it on Instagram, I'm not going to edit the shit out.
Right.
And that's just not who we are. And there's nothing wrong with like
Right.
the pristine looking pictures. Like those are great, but we like to keep it real and authentic and talk about what actually goes into a lot of this stuff and what could happen. So
Sure.
it's really nice that you're so open and just truthful about it, because not everybody is that way.
Yeah, I mean it's a really hard thing, and also, I think people think that us breeders, we just make tons of money, just hand over fist, and it's just not like
What? You don't? I thought you were like a millionaire over there.
right. That's a question I get a lot, oh wow, are you making a living off of that? And I just laugh, like, really? Do you know how much they eat?
Yeah.
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 No. They can absolutely pay for themselves, but
Right.
no one goes into this saying, oh, well, yeah, you might be able to get $1,000 a baby when they're born, but that's still not gonna you're still not gonna get rich on that. You'd have to have
Right.
100 does to breed and have like a dairy, and you can do it large scale, but small scale and even like a medium sized herd that I have, no way. I mean, it's just not. It's not
Right.
possible.
It's a nice little side gig or
It's a hobby. Yeah.
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 Which is a good reminder, because you'll see a lot of people on Instagram that are like, learn how to quit your job
Right.
and breed Nigerian dwarf goats for a living, or
Right.
and I'm just like, you're being so disingenuous
Yeah.
when you do that. Like, I understand that you have to make a living also, but I could never do that myself to
Yeah.
somebody else,
Yeah.
because that, I mean, like, let's face it, if you could breed goats and make the same that you would driving into a city for a job every day,
Right.
everybody would breed goats,
Right.
right? Because it's so much more
Oh,
fun.
yeah.
I mean, not that it's not stressful
Sure,
or work,
sure.
but like, I mean, you're surrounded by adorable baby goats all day.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's just not. I mean, I take it seriously. I work probably more than 40 hours a week at the farm, but I mean, it's just. I mean, like I said, it's not possible to do it full time and make
Right.
and replace an
right.
income. So
Yeah.
it's just not possible.
Well, and so one of the things that we've talked about when breeding goats is whether or not you can breed goats that are related to each other.
So, I've been doing this for 8 years. I'm just now starting to line breed, which is what they call you take a relative and breed it to another relative. And there's a very specific reason for doing it. And, I mean, anyone can breed, a mother to a son or an uncle to a niece, but you should definitely have a reason. You can't just willy-nilly it and say, well, okay. So if you have, say you have a doe that has a really great mammary and maybe her uncle is, closely related. So you want to even improve that mammary in theory to be bigger and better. So that's the reason that you would line breed, is that you want to enhance specific traits in that breeding. Now it also goes the opposite direction. Say they both have the same fault or similar faults. That can also be enhanced too, because you're increasing your genetics when you cross them.
Okay.
So the same that can be said, like, I want to breed this goat to this goat to improve this, it's entirely possible that it goes the other direction and you're going to enhance a fault, or not a fault even, but something that's not as great in the babies as, so everything is multiplied. So I just now this year started line breeding, and I don't do it really closely, but like I said, I do like niece to uncle. I've even done some grandparents to grandson, like a granddam and a grandson. I'll breed them together, and it's for a specific reason. So I want to kind of I'm working on like consistency. So that's one way. If you start line breeding, first you have to get your herd to a level where you're like, okay, I'm pretty good. You're pumping out, not everything is great, but you're pumping out some really nice conformed goats with decent udders and show quality goats. And then you can step your game up to where you're like, okay, I'm going to take this goat, and I'm going to try to make a super goat.
Super good.
Right? So, but yeah, you can absolutely do it. I wouldn't ever suggest, even though it's happened on accident, I wouldn't suggest going as close as brother and sister. That's usually kind of a no-no. If you had a very good reason for it, it would be okay. But generally I stay away from that. I try to go like at least 2 steps away from each other,
Okay. Well, that's
So-
Yeah,
helpful.
which totally makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. Yeah. But, a really successful breeder, he's been breeding for over 25 years, and he's really good at it. I bought a buck from him, and, his whole thing is like, so once you see what you like, then you line breed that, and you'll make more things that you like, in theory. And he says that, he doesn't have family trees. He has family wreaths. So everything is tied back together. And he's created a really nice herd out of, just a few goats that he's been very, very selective about. So I have one of his bucks that I just started to use last year, and I've used him really heavily this year. So it's a thing. I mean, you do it for reasons.
Right. You can't, like you said, it can't be without purpose. It can't just be,
Well,
whoops.
it could be. I mean,
Well, okay.
People
if
are
you're-
When
like-
they are goats, they'll do it.
right. I mean, you can't stop them, and you can't stop people from saying like, "Hey, I have this mom. Oh, well, she had a son last year. I'll just breed the son back to her." Yeah, that'll
Yeah.
totally work. I mean,
it's
that's
not just going to shut it down. Like,
Yeah.
It'll make goats.
Yeah, it will make goats.
But if you want, I guess, if you want it to go well and to have purpose, there's a lot of thought that goes behind it.
Right. It is always for a specific purpose. At least on my farm, I can't obviously speak for everyone, but
Well, it's a good thing for people to think about. 'Cause like one of the things that I did when I got my goats, so 3 of my does have the same sire, and then 1 has a different sire. So I'm like, well, crap, I didn't start this off very genetically diverse, did I?
well, that's all right.
Like I could keep one of their bucks to breed to the other one, but like it only depends like if they're good. Because
Right.
also one of the things, like if you're gonna keep a buck
Yep.
for stud purposes, it has to be a good one.
Yeah, I weather 99.9% of every male born on this farm. I've kept a couple of sons over the years, mostly to replace their sires. I've kept a few and tested them, just kind of threw them together with some first fresheners and just kind of see what happens. But I've probably, I think I've only ever registered less than a half a dozen in 8 years.
Wow.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's not very many. But then again, I like to buy a buck from another herd who does it much better than I do, and then try to, that's the way you're going to improve, is to bring in outside bucks If you keep a buck out of this one and a buck out of this one, you're not really improving anything. You're just kind of spreading the genetics around. So if you bring in an outside buck they could still be related, but from, you know, another herd that kind of knows what they're doing, you can bring that, you can bring that in, and then, you kind of just spread him around in your herd and you see what happens. And then hopefully 3 years later, you can go, oh, that was a good idea. Or you can go, oh no, I just lost 3 years,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So basically being a goat breeder is like you get to be your own mad scientist of goatiness.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's stuff that and it's all a learning experience. There's stuff that I've sold where I'm like, oh, why did I ever sell that? I've had goats where I've seen them, when they're like a year old and they left when they were 3 weeks old. And I'm like, oh no, please, if you ever sell that goat, just, please ask me first, 'cause I want her back, so. So
Well,
that's
and one of the last things that I want to ask about is if you don't have any bucks on your property, how do you go about vetting a farm to either bring in their buck for stud services or to bring your does to?
I would say if you have enough does to, start breeding, the cheapest and easiest is to just buy a buck. And then obviously, I mean, and then, if you're done with them, you can sell them later. There are leasing options. It's really hard to find a driveway breeder, which is what I call them. And it's exactly what it sounds like. You you pull in the driveway, we bring the buck out, he breeds your doe, and you hand them money, and then they leave. So it's very romantic.
Sounds convenient.
Sounds like
Yes.
prostitution.
It's hard to find people who will do that. I actually do it on a limited basis. I stud out my bucks, but every year, well, 2 years in a row now, I've studded out. I've leased a buck to Brad to breed his does, and it's just stuff like that. Like, if you started your herd from my animals, and you have your animals on, or my animals on your farm, absolutely. There's a couple things that you have to worry about, and I purposely try to make it a little hard and expensive because, I just don't want anyone to say, I mean, they can ask, but I'm going to say no, and I'm not,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to say no. I'm going to say, okay, you need this, 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 and it's going to be this much money. And they go, oh, never mind. So, so that's kind of how I say no. But there are so I'll lease a buck to Brad. He has only my animals on his farm. I know they're clean animals because they came from here, and I test. And, I make sure that if someone would, call me up and say, hey, can I use one of my bucks, Nemo, So if they want to use Nemo on their doe, and I say, okay, you're going to need a negative CAE test dated within the last 6 months. You're going to need a certified state certificate of health from your veterinarian dated within the last 30 days. Those two things will pretty much make me feel better about having a doe over here to, expose my buck to, and vice versa. So you want to look for those breeders that, don't just say, okay, you want to make sure that they test, every year, for at least CAE. You want to make sure that, they have, healthy farms, and also require that of you, the person who wants to use the buck as stud, we should require, as a breeder, we should require that they prove themselves as well. So that's kind of, like I said, it's kind of hard to find. I probably do driveway breedings maybe twice a year, maybe. And it's people that I've known for years who have come back to me every year. They just have a little handful of does. They don't have a buck. I vet them every year. I still require the negative CAE test. I require the vet health certificate before they even step. And they're literally here for 2 minutes. So it's very fast.
Bucks get the job done fast.
I usually let them do it a couple times, but it's really fast. So, yeah, those same things. I mean, that's what you should look for. You should look for a clean herd, a tested herd, and that herd should absolutely require the same thing of you.
Yeah, because it should set off some alarm bells if you call them and you're like, "Hey, do you do stud service?" And they're like, "Yeah, when can I pull up? It'll be $500."
Right.
Like, wait a minute. You're a little too eager for this.
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously it's good money, but still, it's like, you don't want to take that chance and just allow just anyone. You have to make them jump through some hoops too, just to make sure that everything stays healthy. Kosher.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to have to tell my husband we need to get a buck.
It's the easiest thing, buy a buck. And it doesn't have to be, I mean, if you want something good, you're going to spend a lot of money, but you can, find bucks, really nice bucks for, $500, $600, and then just get a wether to be his buddy, and you'll have to pin him separately.
Yep.
Because they, come into heat every 21 days. So
Yeah.
I have a little girl right now she's only 7 months old, and she is just screaming her head off today. She's in heat.
Oh no.
And I stream my herd 24/7 on Twitch. So all these people are like, "What is her problem?" I'm like, "She's in heat. I'll turn the sound down."
She wants a dude.
Yes, she is very vocal today, and I'm just like, oh, come on. I guess it's better than silent heats, but still, it can be annoying. So
Yeah. Well, that's cool. So you have a Twitch stream that people can watch of your herd.
Yeah, we are waiting for babies right now. We have babies due a week from today. And so we're going to be live streaming the births as well as the babies. Right now the stream is on the feeder. So they are just, we just watch them eat. At night, I put the camera in the barn, or we have 4 cameras, and I switch to the barn camera and we watch them. And we just watch goats, and it's a very relaxing stream. You can come in and ask questions and, tell me about your goats, and I'll tell you about mine, or whatever. So it's a brand new thing. I just started about 2 weeks ago, but my goal is to stream 24 hours a day. So whatever happens, happens.
That's really cool.
That's really neat.
Yeah,
we're totally going to link to that stream in the show notes.
Cool.
I found
Thank
it
you.
on your website.
Thank you very much.
So listeners, if you want to go just watch goats.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good meditative moment.
It
if you don't have any
usually,
goats of your own.
yeah.
Usually, yeah.
Right.
So you can just go on there, or, if you have any goat questions.
Yeah.
You can chat with Erica directly.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always here. That's one thing, as an educator myself, I've always really believed in, helping other people to, answer questions, help solve problems. And so I make myself available all the time via text or phone or email, or even, on my Twitch channel, wherever. If you have a question, there's also an Ask the Goat Chick page on thegoatchick.com. So you can go there and type in your question. It'll send me an email. I'm usually pretty quick to respond, usually within 24 hours. But if you have an emergency, then please call your vet. But but for other questions or whatever, absolutely, I'm always here. So I totally believe in trying to help people. And, a lot of people help me start up, and So I really want to continue that and just try to make the breed better and try to make goats in general, goat keeping better. So
Well, that's really neat. Thanks for joining us.
absolutely. Thank you for inviting me. It's been wonderful.
Yeah, I think that this was really helpful for both Sam and I personally.
Oh, for sure.
And I mean, I think for our listeners as well. So, do you have any social media accounts
I
we
do.
can tell people about?
So I have on Facebook. I only have Facebook right now, but I do have like a million websites. So I have I have the goatchick.com. I also have so on Facebook I'm the Goat Chick. My herd is called Twin Willows Farm, and we have a social media account. It's Twin Willows Nigerians on Facebook. I also have my book is out called The Goat Chick. Yeah, I have a book. It's kind of laid out the same way as the website. So it's based on thegoatchick.com. So it's basically, you can have it at your fingertips whenever. Put it in your goat medicine cabinet and look up answers. So so it's available on Amazon. The Goat Chick, How to Get Started Raising Goats is what it's called.
We'll be linking to your book in the show notes as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Well, we hope you found this interview with the Goat Chick super fun and informative. We'll have links to everything that we talked about in the show notes. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.